All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, everybody else watching the audience. Thanks for joining us. We're here. Yeah, it's one of those Saturdays/Sundays.
We did it.
Yeah, we actually did it. For those of you live in the audience, thank you for joining us. For those of you in the catching us later on in the VOD, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Just as a word of warning, today's session might wind up being a little shorter than expected. We're a little bit of play it by ear here. A couple folks are pretty tired, and I'm up way early.
And my kitchen's drowning.
I'm just gonna say, yeah, real life has been unkind to a couple of people in the game this week, so we're here for relief. We'll see how it plays out. Also, someone just realized a very interesting goal. Landmark has been crossed. What was it, folks?
Oh, it's our 30th birthday.
Yeah. Can you imagine? We've been doing this 30 episodes now.
Yeah. So
30 episodes, 2 notebooks.
Yeah. So we've been on due respite for 15 of those.
Yeah.
And
Half the life.
yeah.
That's just...
And 30 episodes altogether.
So, yeah.
Well, I've got wine. And chocolate.
Yeah, that's why you have wine and chocolate.
Sure.
We believe you. 1,000 others wouldn't, but we'll believe you. I mean,
I don't know if I do. Others might. I don't.
You're right. You got me, guys. I made up this birthday thing.
So yeah, 30 sessions of Unlawful Disorder, which is a really long, strange trip given the circumstances by which we started. Which was literally me cold calling Chantel, having seen her and this bunch playing on another live stream, going, I would like you to bring your dream team to a game world you've never seen, and her going, hang on, my dream team is them. So yeah. Right then. So that is, 30 sessions. That's pretty awesome. Hard to believe. So for those of you also, there are going to be a couple of format changes and stuff coming. What we're going to be doing is wrapping the current season, if you will, with the conclusion of the adventures in Glitter Delta Cove. Once the group moves on, either over water or underground to Dasseldorf, then that will be the setting of season 3. So we'll talk about all that. So things coming. But anyway, let's jump right in. Chantel has already begged me to not pin her on being the lead-in for for last week's stuff. So instead, I'm going to hit Sam up because he always gets to go last. Hey, Sam.
Hello.
Chevalier. Your thoughts and recollections of recent events, please.
Well, with the conclusion of the Fisher celebration, we woke to discover that Aquidian, who we had some business with, was in a foul mood, shall we say. And so we tried to wait out for him to calm down. And ultimately, we were asked if we could serve as protection for a friend of the family over a couple of days where this person would be attending certain events, but there had been a threat to their life, what with the interfamily politics getting a little rough. However, while we were in this meeting, Jasper caught sight of a piece of paper that had been thoroughly stabbed by Aquidian and realized that it was a map of the dam that we had been a key part of destroying. He was not subtle with this realization, so we're not entirely sure where we stand or how we feel about the situation. We do not have enough information. I do want to be clear, I was not trying to cast any shade against Jasper here. It was quite shocking to discover. I don't think I would have done any better. But we agreed to the job. We went back to Glitter Delta Cove, found accommodation, and are now waiting for our contact, Rachel Gray, to provide us with more information, as we kind of left the meeting without getting details.
Okay. Lucas, your thoughts and recollections, please.
We all had sex. But with different people.
All at the same time.
Also, only one person knows that they had sex we know about.
I'm just going to say...
Two of us definitely didn't, and Lucas can't remember.
I'm just going to say, oddly enough, the military guys is the one who's most concerned about sex and drinking. I mean, stereotype.
Who knew?
Keep going.
Very definitely did not all.
I mean, playing cards is pretty close to having sex for Chevalier, right?
I was about to say that. I was like, playing cards is close to having sex. Like, I've been playing cards wrong.
Yeah.
I cannot remember who I had sex with.
Can you even remember if you had sex?
I can't remember if I had sex. I assume that I did, considering that I woke up with a hangover but quite relaxed.
And naked, which, to be fair, isn't an indicator for Lucas.
No, there have been many nights when I've woken up naked and I haven't had sex.
In the gardens?
Not in those gardens.
Specifically?
In a garden? I won't say that I haven't woken up in a garden naked before. So I'm a repeat offender in many ways. But I was left with a lovely black rose. I have no idea who delivered it, and so that's something to think about when I come back. If we get back to the house, because we left to do this mission, Chevalier. I have been listening in on your little recount, Chevalier. It feels like I'm in a diary room for Big Brother.
Well, that was sort of the format we'd agreed on, for lack of a better way of putting it, right? So, yes. We did. I've been trying to connect with the song, but it doesn't seem to be helping me at all. Every time I try to listen, all I can hear is noise coming from Alexandre. I tried hitting things very hard. I have tried, with that, I was trying to absorb as much wisdom as possible from Chevalier and his guidance, but he can't hear the song, which is a interesting thing. And even Alexandre's guidance seems to be a little bit obscure to me. So we'll see what happens. Yes, but I'm very excited to be doing a bit of a job, which is what I do best, bodyguarding. I'll just flex a little bit. Spiders, anything you'd like to... what's your take on affairs lately?
Mate. Bleep. Little faux pas, wherein I realized that our new patron is in fact in dealings with the Silver Hand, the most dangerous and notorious guild of assassins and ne'er-do-wells on the continent,
Awkward.
and whom we might have pissed off by imprisoning one of their people and blowing up their weapons factory. But, to be fair, we were just doing our jobs. And I know that that defense will stand up in court.
Who's court?
Nonetheless, we have a job to do. Protect some cousin or other from local machinations, and I'm just glad to be out of that house.
All right. Okay then.
Back to the city where people are actively hunting us personally.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's better than in the house of the person whose thing we blew up. I think. Rock, meet, hard place. Coincidentally, that's what I call Lucas and Chevalier.
Am I the rock?
Which is which?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Yes.
So,
Is this, are you describing a Chevalier Lucas? Are we the bread for the meat?
This is getting far too close to fan fiction, and we need to move on.
I'm just gonna say, yeah, let's not do that. Thanks. Alexandre, thoughts and reflections on recent events, please.
I regret nothing. I mean, that's it, really. I regret nothing. I don't regret making Lucas realize he could use the song. I don't regret having sex. That was great. I don't regret talking to Aquidian. I don't regret, destroying the mill in the first place. I don't regret taking on this next job. And I don't regret telling Cromer Eshinani that Lucas Sr. is alive. So, I'm having a good day so far.
Okay then. All right then. So you guys are back in Glitter Delta Cove. You have a place to get word from, quote, Rachel Gray. I think sort of the in-between discussion over the past week has been the sudden realization that no one's actually met Rachel Gray before. Officially, I think you've all been told that Rachel Gray is Jazina's nom de guerre, if you will. Now, Jazina is amongst the Ebon Elves. There is is phenotype the right term? I'm probably using the wrong word wrong. There is a genetic predisposition, if you will, that ash skin and red eyes essentially means magical capability. Almost inherently, they are the sorcerers. Now, whether or not it's the magic that does that, and whether or not they look that way because of the magic, or whether or not they have the magic because they look that way is up for discussion. But sort of there's this stereotype, if you will, amongst the Ebon Elves that ash skin, red eyes, sorcerer. But obviously it makes her incredibly distinct apart from her people, and so the obvious thing would be her nom de guerre, Rachel Gray, is a pointer at her skin color, right? But I think you guys have all realized over the past week of In Between that you folks have never actually met her in her persona of Rachel Gray. You've just been told that's how she gets word around.
Suspicion.
Yes.
As players, we definitely thought that, but Lucas would not have thought that at all. No way.
Chantel's like, I'm a bloodhound. I'm going to find this out. Alexandre?
No.
Alexandre doesn't care.
It's not even suspicious to me. I'm just.
All right. That's really funny, actually. So, does everyone know who Tyra Banks is?
How can anyone not know who Tyra Banks is? I mean,
Bluntly, you wouldn't.
Tyra, there's a difference between fierce and fierce.
yes.
Okay. Good. Well, no, it's I straight up. I hate to be like this, but I know an awful lot of white guys who have no clue who Tyra Banks is. So, to me, it's a legit question priming before I try and explain an NPC. So, you folks are all hanging out. You were told to. Hang on a second, my notes, I'm flailing here because it's that kind of a morning. Yes, you were...
Is Lucas going to be the next top model?
You guys were all...
No, but Alexandre might be.
Might be.
Look, they started making both male and female top model in the same competition, so hey.
Model! Let's do it!
I'm just going to say that's... I'm sorry, I'm a huge fan of actually the early editions of that show. I've stopped watching it, but I really do like Tyra. She's fantastic. So you were basically told to keep track of messages at the Saucy Wench, which you basically found out is the aristocratic equivalent of a hole in the wall. It's incredibly tiny. There was basically no room at the inn. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. And y'all said, right, I guess we're gonna have to actually stay somewhere else. So you actually wound up staying at a place that's a few blocks away, called the Lazy Sky, which allowed you guys to each get yourselves the usual arrangement of the two brothers, one room, Chevalier and Alexandre another room, without having to stay basically in the common room. I suspect Spider at least will have considered the idea that all of you camping out in the common room of a P&B is probably an excellent way to get found by bounty hunters. Private rooms are a little bit more discreet. So I think for the scene will be that you folks are essentially hanging out at the Saucy Wench. The place has got 12 tables. It's kind of pricey, but the food is quite good. There is a irritating sign over the fireplace that actually says alcohol not served to half-orcs, halflings, or tieflings. So there's a little bit of probably going to be an eyebrow arch about that, but since none of you fall into that category, that's okay, I guess. Hang on a sec. And the place basically smells of an interesting mixture of raw whiskey and perfume. It's the best way of explaining the smell in the air. It's a huge fireplace with the sort of logs that you would expect they would need someone Chevalier's size to move and put in. In fact, it's one of the rare two-story fireplaces I think any of you will have seen, which is to say the fireplace actually, they load the logs in on the floor above, and the logs are actually standing up in the fireplace, and they just keep sinking down into the fireplace as they burn. So this generates a tremendous amount of light and warmth.
What?
They put a tree in the fireplace and they burn it.
2 or 3 of them, actually. Like this is the sort of thing that you would use to build up a bed of, a foot-thick bed of coals prior to roasting an entire cow. In a major kitchen back in Shining Capital, and that's the fireplace that's in this otherwise hole in the wall.
But would they roast the cow up? Do they take a cow upstairs to roast?
I'm imagining a crucified cow now,
I'm imagining a cow upstairs that then falls down as it roasts, and you just catch meat.
Wow!
You got
like a meat shower.
You put it every now and again. You just instead of a log, you just put the cow. Put the log on top of the cow.
That's amazing.
My suspicion this is not going to be a terribly serious game session. I can't.
It's like not.
But
not to completely reinforce that statement.
I am.
But when you described, it's like you put, putting the log in the the fireplace and then burn it. All I could think about was suddenly was like, put the log in the fireplace and burn it all down. So I just wanted everyone to know where my brain was at, and now we can go forward.
Sorry, my brain was back at Lazy Sky and imagining that it just had a bad time staying up and kept falling down.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. We're done for this week's broadcast. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh my god.
Right, and so
Wow, okay.
Friends like these.
So I think so. Yeah, it's interestingly enough, in spite of the place smelling a lot like fermenting rye, the actual sort of the specialty drink is this very thick, heavy black liqueur that's actually a mixture of herbals. I think Spider. Oh God, I was just about to do it. I was just going to say I think Spider's sense is going to be that.
He can climb walls.
I'm just going to say, yeah, he can climb walls, yes. Is that he probably should not have any of that. It smells strong as it goes by in shot glasses to another table, to Spider's nose. And they do a pretty rocking broiled plain strider, which is sort of an ostrich-like bird, done in a hot cream sauce. So I mean, they got some pretty snazzy food. It's
Apparently, in this country, we won the war against the emus.
no, they just have an inexhaustible food supply because of the war. So by the way, just complete non sequitur now that you've mentioned it. If you guys aren't watching Mags TV, the Aussie gamer, he actually does a historical war clip on the great Emu War. It's hysterical as heck because he narrates it the way most people would have narrated a battle of the First World War. So Mags
Right.
TV, Aussie gamer.
I used to love it. I believe they've changed it now, which is a very sad thing. But on Wikipedia, it used to actually be formatted the way they format war as well. So in like the stuff on the side where it's like all the cliff notes kind of thing, it actually was like Force 1, Australian Army, these are the forces that were involved. On the other side, emus, these are the forces. It was just like this whole list of it was like an armored corps and they had this many vehicles and it just said like 5,000 emus. And then it was like casualties and enlisted casualties. It was like 2 people and this many, and it was just like. And it all done. And someone changed it. And I was like, come on. Wikipedia, why?
Oh, that's brilliant. So I guess the best way of explaining the woman who walks in is what happens if Tyra Banks gets contracted to play a humanoid lioness.
So you're saying Tyra Banks walks into this bar?
Yeah.
Only with some expensive makeup. I mean, more expensive makeup than usual.
Whoa, is that possible?
I think if Chevalier's jaw could drop.
He has to screw it back on. Just rolls out the door.
One of the drones goes.
Faceplate just gone.
Just takes it off, snaps off the bottom half, puts the top half on.
I think, definitely any conversation we're having stops.
I think that's probably.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the reaction from most of the folk in the bar, honestly. I mean, yeah, there's distinctive figure, and then there's that. And I don't mean she's absolutely immediately a commanding presence. So
Damn.
I think she's actually going to look around. She's going to look at Lucas for a moment, shake her head, and then look at Spider and go, and then head over to the bar for a moment.
I got a shake?
So yeah,
Lucas loses 2 for presents.
Take 3 hit point damage if you could as well,
yeah,
please.
I was gonna say, yeah, psychic damage.
Oh,
is a thing in
feeling it today. Is it, where's my shame stat?
That would be resolve, and I think you'll find you have none. It's gone.
It's all gone, just wiped.
Critical hit. Yes, you're done.
Wiped my resolve. Oh.
So she's actually going to go over to the bar, chat for a few minutes, with a vaguely overwhelmed looking owner. He's a slightly shorter. He's either an exceedingly tall halfling, at which point the sign at the bar makes no sense, or he's an exceedingly short human. You can't tell which.
God. Not quite one, not quite the other.
Anyway, so chat with him, who's kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, looking a combination of overwhelmed and horrified. Anyway, she will at some point pass a stack of coins across the table to him. He will pass her back. I think Spider will probably notice the transaction. I'm not sure anybody else would. But it will.
How could we not? It's a lioness, Tyra Banks. We're all just staring, right? Are we all just staring?
At her, not what she's doing.
Oh, okay, cool. That's fair.
I mean, depends what she's using to do what she's doing.
Yeah, so the catch with someone like that is you tend to wind up staring anywhere except their hands. But I think Spider is the sort of person who understands that a person like that, I suspect Spider has probably encountered someone like this before, that literally, at the point they are that conspicuous, they just do things bluntly in plain sight because no one's looking at the, it's sleight of hand done by body language as opposed to by gesture. You're so busy looking everywhere at except what my hands are doing that I can do as I please. So I think Spider, like I say, is just going to think, yeah, I've met you before, lady. You know, it doesn't matter who it was. I think I've met you before. So, and so I think Spider just automatically will be able to sort of realize that there's more going on there than her just buying a bottle of something to drink at the bar. There's actually a much more clandestine transaction going on. So she does the equivalent of buying a bottle of champagne, and then arguing about the fact that it's not the label she wanted, and then getting another bottle. Which is the point where the second when that bottle goes, so the money gets pushed back and forth across the table 2 or 3 times. The bottle goes back and forth 2 or 3 times before, as far as Spider is able to determine, it's the same bottle. The only difference is the on the last back and forth, the acceptable bottle, the same bottle, also had a small hand-sized bundle where the guy was sort of gripping it sort of between his hand and the bottle. And so everyone's so busy watching the altercation, if you will, her, complaining about the quality of alcohol here and the price being charged, etc., that, again, if it wasn't for this fact that Spider literally has a special ability that allows him to cut through the BS, everyone's so busy watching the theater that they would have missed the sleight of hand.
I want to call it a flirt of hand.
You can do that if you want, yes.
Do I get any indication, because I know you said she looked over at us and gave some little head gestury stuff going on. Do I get the feeling that whatever this deal is involves us in any way?
Well, it was more that, like I say, I'm Lucas. I think Lucas will just say perked up when she walked in, and so there was just that moment where she exactly didn't make eye contact with Lucas while scanning the table. Kind of shook her head about something when she looked at Lucas, and then when she saw Spider, went, oh, and then went to the bar.
Right, but there's no like indication that this business deal has anything to do with us.
Not until the point where she turns around and walks over to your table, no.
Okay.
She's here.
Hang on a second, I will ask all of you, I'm having, oh gosh, hang on, I'm having a
Tyra.
So I will ask all of you, Michelle is having a brain blank, it's the learning is the stat I'm thinking.
Learning.
Yes, I will ask all of you to make a learning roll, please.
All right. Oddly enough, Lucas does have a point in learning.
30.
So it hit every side of my dice tray. Both of them hit every side of my dice tray. And I have a D4 in learning, and I rolled double ones.
Oh gosh, okay. So,
Alexandria is distracted. She hot.
yeah, given recent events, I think
So weird that Chevalier rolled really well.
I'm just,
It's just like,
I think there's so much of a story there. I think that given Alexandria's recent personal history, Alexandria's mind's in the gutter, and Chevalier's in the process of writing a PhD paper, I think is the...
I also rolled pretty good. I got a 25.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I like exploding dice.
Oh, not again.
Oh, no, I didn't do so well, but I got a 22.
Okay, I was just gonna say, not another Professor Edgewater moment.
No. No, it's
I was going to insist you edge xenobiology as the shit to your character sheet. Okay, hang on a second.
did that,
Yeah, that was very...
Did we all
Michelle.
go?
Yeah, we did. The mic that you're using for Zoom, it has a problem.
It has a problem.
Feeding back really
We
bad.
cannot hear you now.
Oh,
in kind of
test,
My
two,
guess
three.
is it's
squealed.
like half on.
Like
It screamed and then we can't hear you.
Okay, one sec. Let me look.
Oh, we can't hear you at all. Oh my god, it is like tinnitus.
Okay, that's awkward. One sec.
Hey guys.
Funnily enough, we can hear you through the stream though, so...
Yeah, that's
Oh really?
Yeah,
Damn
that's
it, I
great.
thought we could hijack this.
Well, he can hear us,
clearly.
Yeah,
and the stream can hear him as well.
yeah.
Ooh. Ooh, it sounds a little bit like Beastie Boys.
This is so strange because the stream's not hearing any of what we're hearing, but we clearly look like we're hearing something.
I'm glad we're all experiencing this because anyone watching the stream or watching it back will be like, what is going on? But because we're all in this one reality, then it is happening.
Maybe we are in our own reality at this point.
Well, yes, that's 2020 in a nutshell.
We still can't hear you.
What is this?
My phone is not working.
Oh, yes, that is 2020 in a nutshell though. Delays are weird.
Scream from inside your heart. 2020. Somebody actually I wrote a tweet. I did a tweet in like March saying 2016. Yeah, let's torture or terrorize the public. And then 2020. Oh yeah, hold my drink. And like, yeah, somebody liked that and shared it. And now it's like, great. It brought up today. I think considering the world right now, 2020 is proving that it is the worst year.
I will never be able to let go of the fact that someone horrible said to me, of course we see the world clearly in 2020.
Is that Sam that said that?
Very Sam stuff.
I was gonna say, I was like, I was almost being like rude, but on the other hand, I also was like, I don't remember saying that.
You're the only other person I could imagine saying it other than this person.
I feel like I have the wherewithal to wait till next year.
Test.
Oh, hello, you're back.
Yes, yes.
Right. So what's happened is that literally my Zoom microphone has actually just straight up died on stream. So I'm actually let me know if there's feedback. Anybody who's watching on the stream, let me know if there's actual feedback, because I'm actually having to use the production microphone wired through Zoom as a jury rig, and technically I suspect that's going to create a lot of feedback. I've zotted it as much as I can, but just in case this literally sounds like we're all yelling, let me know.
You're a little louder on Zoom, but it's not louder on stream.
Yeah, I'm not surprised with that. If you also may, and if Beanie goes off, you'll hear him much more clearly with this microphone.
So
Would
if
you
we all are
mind
deafened by the end
pulling
of it.
your mic down on Zoom, the volume of your mic down,
Yeah, how?
just a little bit. The up arrow to the left,
The up arrow to the left.
down where the microphone.
Okay. Audio settings. Got it.
Yeah, and then
Oh, okay. Yes, I've got the input volume cranked. 1 second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
a little bit too quiet.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
A little more?
Okay, a little more is useless. Which way? Up or down?
Up.
Up. Okay. All right, let's try that then.
That's better. I like
That's
that.
great. That's great. Thank you.
So yeah,
So where
I'm
were we?
gonna literally have to go replace my microphone after this stream.
That's exciting. New hardware.
Oh no, that's just a set of headaches for the week to contend with. I hate integrating hardware, particularly for live streams. So, all right.
Lucas just found out that Tyra Banks gave him a black rose.
Yes, I'm sure that's what it was. So let's, like I say, so I think what's happening here, for lack of a better way of explaining it, is that, like I say, given recent history with personal history with Alexandria, her mind's in the gutter, and Chevalier's writing a PhD paper. I will actually put the name of the race of the individual in chat, so you guys can have it for your notes.
How rare, how uncommon are these people? Because the way you described it made it sound like this was a very uncommon occurrence.
Absolutely. She's a member of the Luncon. Luncon are mostly, and I will say this in the worst possible way, just for Alexandria, a well-known predator warrior race that hangs out in the steppe-lands leading up to the mountain range surrounding the Sky Animal Plain. I don't want to say they're cat themed, but for lack of a better way of putting it, they actually get the special ability speak with beasts as pertains to plains cats. And so it's cats riding cats escorted by cats into battle. It's the best way of it's practically a meme. On the other hand, they're also known as remarkably cunning diplomats. They are. It's kind of like dealing with the Membari from Babylon 5. They would just as soon be left alone, but if you irritate them, they will just erase you. As a method of explaining to everybody else that they'd all rather be studying philosophy. Confucian warrior monks is another good way to. Again, these are just very broad stereotypes for anyone who rolled less than a 20. Yeah. Alexandria has no clue what her race is and frankly doesn't care. While the claws. But yeah, so they're the best way. Yeah, I think the best way of explaining them is they're somewhere between the Membari and Confucian warrior monks as a culture. Mostly, they would like to be left alone. Spend their time doing things which are culturally interesting to them, and owning their chunk of the savanna and steppes that they lay claim to, and sorting things out by long talks, philosophical debates, and bake-offs. However, since nobody else on the blood, like seriously, these guys do you've heard of a dance-off? This culture.
Great Savannah Bake Off?
More like barbecue off.
Great Savannah Barbecue Off.
But given the fact that no one will actually leave them alone, they've gotten very, very good at scorched earth warfare. Their method of convincing you you as a culture that you've made a very bad life choice is to figure out how much land you tried to conquer and then erase that much of your land on your side of the border before retreating.
Like a tit for tat thing.
Worse, no, absolutely. It's more like an eye for an eye and the head for good measure.
So they're cats.
So
as in, like, I mean, cat behavior. Like, like they would just tip a glass off as just cause
you have
they don't like the way you look.
You have displeased me, so your carpet is forfeit. I mean, it's just. It's not that they're unknown through the Confederacy, but they're just not part of it. So she's sort of way out of her home range, if you will. It's not statistically a freak show that she would be here, but let's just say she's probably the only one you're meeting today.
Yeah, I reckon that would have been for Lucas, like, oh, damn. And then, wait, why? Yeah.
So I think the general overall culture, like I say, the meme, if you will, of cats riding cats surrounded by cats, is probably, anything less than a 20. And then the idea that, basically they're actually, they're a warrior race is probably anything 22-ish or lower. And any, 25 or less is the idea that they're basically they're a warrior race out of necessity. Literally they do scorched earth warfare to convince people to leave them alone, because that way they don't have to be a warrior race. And then I think Chevalier, sitting out at 30, fully understands the extent of the culture to which literally their preferred method of settling internal debates between clans is who's the better cook. Like, literally, you just straight up, who can put on the greatest display of culture is their preferred method of sorting out, power struggles. We have better culture, so we're more worth following.
My butter is softer than yours.
I have no idea what you just said. It sounded like it was strained through a blender. Try that again.
So, my butter is softer than yours. Therefore, we are the superior race.
Being really scathing of his accent, but
no, literally, it's.
I do it.
I just say it's
terrible accent.
I was just gonna say it's such a stereotypically bad Parisian accent. I find it actually rather droll, because it's exactly the sort of accent that Quebecers make fun of Parisians with, which is really funny. Listening to a French guy making fun of a French guy because of their accent.
Love it.
But no, at that moment, literally, your audio to me went totally rubato, so I had no idea what you were on about.
Great.
So it was a Parisian rubato.
I'm glad my microphone was looking out for me with my terrible accent, so... there's an accent filter on this.
Yeah. So yeah, like I say, I think this was none of your business right up to the point. Like I say, Spider will have noticed the transaction and the obvious shenanigans designed to get everyone looking at her, but by definition just of how much she dominates the room. No one's actually looking at her hands. Except possibly the hand waving up here, but as soon as the hand drops down to the table, it sort of vanishes to most people. So I think Spider will have caught the entire transaction. And then, yeah, she's going to take this bottle of relatively expensive wine and head over to the table. And one of the two serving girls in the room will basically be following along, functionally invisibly behind her, because no one's paying attention to the serving girl. The serving girl could pretty much be Frankenstein. No one would notice. And will come over the table, just casually reach behind her with her unoccupied hand, grab a chair away from somebody else's table without asking, spin it around, sit backward down, and drop the bottle in front of you and say, "You must be Spider. I'm Rachel Gray."
What gave it away?
She kind of rubs at her neck.
Yeah.
You do have a lot of tattoos.
I was joking, Lucas.
Now, I mean, if she had tattoos, you'd never see them. So just the fact that she rubbed at her neck was just funny, in her own way. So she will just very almost unceremoniously. So the French. By the way, I absolutely adore this. The French cavalry, in a fit of boredom somewhere along the ride, decided it would be really cool to get good at opening champagne bottles with a cutlass. So there is an entire art form in French culture to taking a cavalry saber and slicing the top off the end of the bottle in such a way that you do not spray champagne everywhere and don't get glass in the champagne. Okay, now,
Okay.
as martial arts go, there's savate, which is technically the French national martial art, and then there's whatever that is, and I think that's just hysterically funny. So she's going to essentially take out the equivalent of a Bowie knife and just pink the top, just straight through the bottle, and then take which is still sitting in place. Like, it doesn't seem to have stopped at the glass, and then take the neck of the bottle off and pour as the serving girl's setting glasses down, and she'll very casually pour champagne for everyone.
Oh, incredible.
She smiles.
I don't know what we can and can't say on this channel.
PG-13.
Okay. Well, Lucas is very quiet and is just watching. He's just like,
Actually, the better way I put it, I say this about all of my games, is ESRB, M for mature. Suggestive themes, alcohol, drugs, but yeah, don't be unnecessarily crude. Don't be unnecessarily blatant, right? But
Great.
M for mature is fine by me.
great. Well, me just suggesting that what I was about to say would probably break those rules is enough.
This isn't a Rockstar game. This isn't anything written, but this isn't anything written by Black Dog Comics. Okay.
No.
Just no. So M for mature. Yeah, anything. Like I say, interesting enough, by the way, keep in mind that World of Warcraft is M for mature. As a if you're familiar with and so is Final Fantasy FFX. Final Fantasy 15. If you just sort of mentally go, okay, what have I seen in major MMOs? I think as well, another one which a lot of people absolutely adore right now is the new Star Wars game, Fallen Order, is technically M for mature. They don't do anything too blatant in that. So yeah, anything you can get away with in a major MMO is legit for me on screen.
Great.
You know. So,
I kill all of the local animals and gather up their tails for infinite amounts of gold.
Yeah, most of them don't drop tails.
Luckily, a new generation just appears out of nowhere.
I'm just gonna say, yeah. Everyone wonders why it is most MMOs have crits in them. Crits are the reason you only find one tooth. I mean, I'm just I can't.
So this one doesn't have a tail, but I found a two-handed axe in it.
That was your two-handed axe, dummy.
Oh my god.
No, this one's green. Mine's white.
How did I find bandages in this one?
So, when Alexandria comments, "Oh, you're incredible," she's literally going to just toss her mane and say, "It's I had my hair done."
I can tell.
So she's going to slide a glass of champagne over in front of all of you. So how's everyone today?
You are very muted.
I am.
Yeah, Davey, that whole thing.
Before she pulls one for me, I'd like put my hand out to stop her.
Okay, sure. She kind of tip her head. Don't drink.
I just sort of give a solemn nod.
Spring water.
Yeah, sort of gesture like,
Yeah.
sure.
So she will look over the serving girl and say, "Clarette, could you get us some bubbly spring water? Thank you." She knows the serving girl by name. So she's going to smile at everyone. And so a moment later, the young girl, apparently known as Clarette, will appear with essentially the equivalent of a bottle of Perrier and sit and a tall glass and sit it in front of Spider, and then will politely vacate the place or the immediate area. So, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's really obvious everyone is staring at your table and trying not to.
Yeah.
Well, I'm taking a sip.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's a modestly it's not the Brut d'Arnac of Champagne. It's I'm not even sure it qualifies as Dom, but it's certainly well north of Baby Duck. Let's do it that way. It's a modestly priced, full flavored, sparkling wine. The sort of thing that fits neatly into the category of both alcohol and fizzy and candy, I guess, is the best way of explaining the taste. I think for Alexandria, this stuff has mistake written all over it if she's not careful.
Roll double ones, babe.
Mrs. Mouth.
She has a drinking problem.
Yeah, that's learning. That's learning, right?
All right. So I think we're going to take our first break. Everyone go fill your glasses up, and then we'll get into the discussion with the lady claiming to be Rachel Gray. All right? That work for everyone?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, everybody else who's watching, we're back. So yes, the absolutely striking lass with the whiskers and long hair at the table, who has introduced herself as Rachel Gray, is going to have a sip of her bubbly. I'm just going to quickly go around here. Alexandria, is Alexandria thinking anything which fits into ESRB mature?
No.
That's what I thought you were going to say. Lucas, any thoughts?
Lucas has suppressed those thoughts and is now thinking a little bit like, why? Why is Long Con here? Why? Yeah, that's my thought. Why is Rachel Gray a Long Con?
Yeah. Okay. Chevalier? Chevalier basically blew the doors off that roll. So if you have any specific questions, by the way, let me know.
He's reminiscing about when he got to watch a cook-off. Fascinating. Some of the techniques were amazing.
I'm just gonna say yes. Yeah, they say that in any good kitchen, preparation is everything. The Luan Kong have been known to do 3 days worth of prep for a one-day feast. Then,
Well, it's not. It's sort of like it has certainly occurred to him that this is not. There's a degree of like similarities between when we first met Aquidian as well. Mm-hmm. Of this figure just entering this bar, and everyone going, "Who is that? What's going on?" It's a little bit more pronounced now.
Yep.
But
yeah, I mean, I
same energy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
in many ways.
I think for Chevalier, there's with both Aquidian and Rachel Gray. I think there's probably substantially more blasé. Perhaps the player's feeling that way, but I think Chevalier is well enough traveled that Ebon Elves weren't exactly news, and probably not Luan Khan either.
Oh yeah, definitely have a degree of like that being part of it.
Yeah.
But interesting that it's happened twice now.
Agreed.
With working with the same people.
Yeah. So yeah. Spider. Where are you at with all this?
Yeah, I just like look at her and I say, "It's funny you say that. We were given to believe we'd already met Miss Gray, and you are not she."
She's going to giggle, I think, is the best way of explaining the sound that comes out of her. Obviously, it's a different jaw structure, it's a different tongue structure, it's a different set of vocal cords. So it's as close to a lioness giggling as I think you can probably expect to hear. And she's going to kind of lean forward and drop her voice enough that the whole room, no matter how hard they stare, ain't hearing. She says, "Oh, Josine is a sweetie, but but obviously enough, there's a certain distance she needs to maintain." Everyone knows her brother. Well, sorry, everyone knows her cousin.
Indeed. I suppose, by implication, then, we are all here family.
It's an interesting way of doing. It's such an interesting way of doing things, isn't it? If you like someone enough to hug them, call them family, and keep them forever, I think it's great. It's completely not how we do things back home, but yeah.
How do you do things?
She's going to actually blink for a moment. Oh, I'm sorry. I think it's probably much more familiar to humans. She kind of looks at your ears. I'm not sure how the elves do things, but much more that blood's everything. You either are family or you aren't. Family is a line drawn in blood. For my kind. Now, that doesn't mean you can't like someone remarkably, and doesn't mean you might want to, think they're the best thing you've ever met, ever since sliced game bird. But at the end of the day, there's a line drawn in blood. they either are family or they aren't.
Do families ever mix?
I think the closest answer to that is marriage. She's not going to use the word marriage, but because she actually is going to use her own language for a moment and then pause, and you can see she's trying to do the translation, and she says, I think basically what she's going to say is, I think the closest concept we can get to is the human idea about marriage. Like, clearly there's not an actual literal translation for whatever it was she just said into human. It's just a different concept, so is what Michelle is trying to say she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no stranger to found family, but family or not, blood or not, there are always knives or claws hiding behind people's backs, so...
No, there's always people like that. Doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter what culture. There's always someone who thinks that they're going to be able to do a better job by being an idiot. The worst part's when they're right some days.
Yeah. You have a job for us.
Yeah, so Jazina tells me you people are fantastic. She also tells me that Equidian is jumping up and down, and that grandmother's delighted with you. So I have no idea what any of that has to do, but she went on at length this morning on our chat. But it looks like you've all drawn the short straw, and I'm very, very sorry to hear that. So you're going to be looking after an absolute prima donna named Ramiki.
We're used to that.
Now, Rameki is... There's going to be this pause. She's going to glance between a few people, and she's going to very conspicuously drink from her glass, and you can see one of her whiskers quivering where she's trying not to snicker.
I
look at Alexandria, and I said, well, you've met our sister.
Yes.
Right.
Well, she is a prima donna.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Lucas just quietly sips his drink.
all right. So, don't get me wrong. The biggest problem with Rameki is that she is actually a prima donna that can sing. Which means there's simply no disabusing her of her opinion of herself.
Yes. Opera singers.
Now the other piece of the puzzle is she's one of the same looking bunch as Jazina is, so don't presume she can't just, if she has a hissy fit, just can't hurl a pile of fire at something, which also makes dealing with her complicated. Jazina is far more introspective. It's why I love dealing with her. Rameki, on the other hand, is less so. We'll use that phrase. So the Gouverneur is having a big cultural do. And obviously enough, Remeki's not sitting that out. It's just that, the Dashamli, Dasham Ali have been flexing a little bit lately. And I think there's probably a few toes that have been stepped on. Equidian is really, really good at what he does, but he's not perfect. And he is not exempt from other people's ambitions and machinations as much as he would like to be. Anyway, there's a concern that Rameki is going to be used as an abject lesson. It would be highly embarrassing because she's a cousin. And one of those things to the Ebon Elves, for lack of a better way of putting it, is that you protect found family even more than you do born family. Completely different to the way we do it. So if you really want to embarrass an Ebon Elf, you go after found family to demonstrate that the family name isn't worth anything, I guess is the best way of explaining it. It's all very complicated. I'm not sure I understand. The Ebon Elves just like complicating everything. She's gonna shake her head.
Well, it's nice to be wanted.
It's funny, you seem to know their ways a bit better than any of us. Do you think...
I've been Rachel Gray on and off now for about 6 years. So I spend an awful lot of time chatting with Jazina.
Fair enough. Do you think that same principle about protecting found family would apply if they found out, in retrospect, about a great wrong done to them unknowingly before they were family?
Hang on a second. Michelle is just going to throw some dice here because I think it would be really funny if she was able to sort of figure out what Spider was going around about. And
she's just like, wait, did you break the dam? Like,
so I mean, she's not a dumb girl. She's sort of a professional. Spy is too strong a word. She's a professional street diplomat.
Yeah, and I'm not like being.
You're not being.
I'm being circumspect, but I'm not
exactly. So, and she
being
said that
completely.
And she's already said
opaque.
Quidion's throwing a temper tantrum about something. So, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Absolutely not with that roll. She a 1 and a 3. She rolled a total 4. So just misses the reference completely, and so she's completely approach it from the philosophical, cultural dissertation perspective. She's no idea what Spider's on about. So she's going to get a very thoughtful look on her face. One of her whiskers is going to twitch for a moment. The slight drum beat of the tail on the floor as she's thinking. I suppose the catch would be if you could actually prove that it was actually genuinely unknowing. Because the Ebon Elves, from what I understand, have a really strong sense of fate. That stuff happens because it's supposed to happen, and sometimes you wind up in bed with they have a word for strange bedfellows, but it's nobody's fault. They actually have a word for that.
Side-eye Alexandria again.
It literally to explain this idea that sometimes fate just makes things happen no matter how unlikely it sounds. And they hang very heavily under this idea of fate. So I suspect if you were actually able to prove... Yeah, your hypothetical, the hypothetical there is, if it was just obvious that, like, no one could have foreseen this, then that's just their idea of fate playing in, and that's just the way it's supposed to be. Now, if it looked at all like your hypothetical was, oh yes, we're cunning spies doing sabotage, and now we've infiltrated your family, that's treason, and they have no... Because of their fierceness...
Yeah, nothing on that level, it's just... Of course, they've taken us in despite us having strong ties to the Confederacy and...
she pauses, she chuckles. Yeah, Quidion's had a bee in his bonnet about the Confederacy for the past 50 years. I'm not sure that many other people in the family care. That's one of those things about Quidion, is because of his job, he gets a little bit more latitude with city events than almost anybody else does. But it also means that, bluntly, he's a bored child. She's kind of she sips at her wine and very clearly trying not to say anything else. I think Spider could have almost heard the word "spoiled brat" was what she drank her way through.
So Rachel,
right, well,
Rachel, tell us Where, when, and what do we wear?
Tomorrow evening, you'll meet Remeki here. She's hard to miss. Just she absolutely loves her red eyeliner and red mascara because it goes well with her eyes. And she absolutely loves her shockingly blue attire. You will just absolutely not be able to miss this girl when she walks in. And then you'll just escort her over to the Gouverneurs' residence. They're going to be doing the big thing over in the tourney field. My understanding is they're rearranging the tourney field into a concert hall, into an open air concert hall. You basically have to keep her from something unfortunate preventing her from making the stage, and then something unfortunate happening on her way home. She pauses. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a street fighter. I don't know how to worry about these things. I can just tell you that the three obvious places I can see a problem are on the way over, while she's backstage, and on the way home. I'll leave it up to you folks. That's why Jazina wants you on the gig, I guess, is because of your expertise, to figure out anything else that might be a problem. But
Is there any...
dress like Entourage.
You mentioned the family has enemies who might pose a threat. Is there any profile to those kinds of people?
She's going to chuckle slightly, have a sip of her champagne, eye the mostly empty glass suspiciously, top it off again. Very quickly go around the table to top everyone else's glass, and then we'll very conspicuously top Spiders off with some more spring water. Like she just goes, just doesn't ask, just tops his glass off with more spring water, the same gesture kind of thing. And she said, I suspect I'd be looking for people like you. Well, I just don't think you'll have to deal with many of him, she says, gesturing at Chevalier.
Do we need to be circumspect, or is it okay for her to appear to have security detail?
So here's the thing. So this is one of these odd foibles about the Ebon Elves. The Ebon Elves are all about being over the top while hiding all the cards, but I don't know how. And my culture, honestly, we do one of two things. We either my culture throws it out all on the table. We just don't ever hold anything back. If we're at war, we're completely at war. If we're having dinner, we're completely having dinner. If we're having a nap, we're completely having a nap. I don't know how you humans do it. So you'll have to balance the fact that it's a bunch of Ebon Elves in a human world. I think, by the way, Alexandria's mind is having far more more trouble focusing suddenly, given her recent narrative.
Great. So we dress like we're her best friends.
I think that would be completely appropriate. If you're going to be hanging out with an Ebon Elf, that would make an awful lot of sense.
Well, Alexandria and Lucas can fight over who gets to be her date. Chevalier, you're going to look like a security detail no matter how we dress you.
Sorry, that's
yes.
That's
I was going.
Laughing, not
I was going to suggest we don't try and worry about hiding that. I would, and I may have misunderstood, but I thought there was 2 days worth of events, or is it just the performance and then to and from?
There are 2 days worth of performance. The first one's tomorrow night, and then there's the one after that. So it's 2 nights in a row, the same routine. And after that, Remeki goes back to wherever it is. Remeki does the Ebon Elf equivalent of an over-the-top recluse, and we don't have to worry about her safety so much.
Very well.
Rachel,
Yes.
what's your real name?
She kind of looks at you with a little quirk and says, "I'm not sure you can make that noise." So she's going to look around the table, and she will actually drop her voice slightly, because it's a lioness suggesting to you that she's going to tear your throat out in the most polite way possible. Is the sound that comes out of her mouth. That's my name. I don't know if that's valuable to you at all.
I'm just curious. I didn't think that Rachel Gray was a particularly...
No, Jazina came up with it, and I have no idea. I get the impression there's a joke there somewhere, but I don't know what it is. But yeah, she's just told me to introduce myself to everyone as Rachel Gray. I don't know where it comes from.
Thank you for the sparkling.
Oh, I adore this stuff. And it'd be kind of rude if I just bought a bottle for myself and drank it all without sharing.
You'd be in fine company.
I'm just going to say, so...
Valet sort of like offers his untouched glass.
Just, by the way, so this she's possibly, she's about 6 foot tall. She's probably north of 200 pounds, and it's mostly muscle. She's just straight up a lioness on a humanoid frame. So the idea that she gets off drinking basically, alcoholic candy, bubbly alcoholic candy is sort of, the...
100 pounds of lean muscle too.
Yeah, I mean...
No.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'd have to double check. It seems to me that your slightly chubby looking African lionesses real life will get north of 400 pound without trying too hard. But they're also dynamic about what they have to do with their bodies puts a lot more weight into a lot more muscle into the leg and the lower body than I think is probably valuable in a biped, like So, but even so, yeah, she's somewhere in the vicinity. She's north of 200 pounds, pretty much, fur and muscle kind of thing. She's remarkably well dressed. But like I say, there's just no mistaking the fact she's got a tail, claws, and whiskers either. And she's got the sort of kind of gold eyes that you figure would just absolutely glow in the right lighting. Very much the Savannah cat. And yeah, but she also tries not to smile too much but it's kind of like looking at a barracuda smiling, right? It's not a comforting sight. There's an awful lot of sharp pointed things in that mouth. So yeah, so you've noticed that her eye, that one of the sort of her giggle involves sort of a dull rumbling in one of her one of her whiskers twitching wildly is her idea of giggling. Right, there's a few things like that you're probably already, because again, other than Alexandria, who I don't know where she's at, everyone else rolled well north of 20. So, you're cueing in on body language and stuff like that perhaps a lot of other people wouldn't have noticed, either because you just instinctively get the race, or because you've had dealings with them before, or you've read about them somewhere, Mr. PhD Edgewater.
Most of my studies were in the lizard folk, but sometimes I did have to branch out.
Yes.
Well, the natural, food chain, right?
Excuse my ignorance. What are you doing so far from home?
Oh, she has a sip of her champagne. One ear droops slightly, the whiskers drop a little bit, and it's the best explanation of embarrassed I think you've ever seen. I owe the family a few little details and favors, so I promised to give them a hand here. And through a long, complicated chain of events, they decided this is the best place I could help them. And she's desperately trying to change the topic, I think, is the most obvious body language that I can state is going on here.
Where to go when you embarrass a lioness? Where do you go with conversation after that?
Elsewhere.
So, I hope you like opera, she says, desperately changing the topic. Ramiki is one of those absolutely interesting individuals who seems to figure that because Ebon Elf opera is the pinnacle of their culture, it should probably be brought in a crusade-like manner to every other culture she encounters.
Is she wrong?
Let's just say it's not my thing. I'm told she's quite. Jazina assures me she's really, really good at it. I'll politely just say it's not my thing.
Is this the kind of mission that you would do, but you've turned down?
Oh no, absolutely. Well, it's not my skill set. My skill set is walking into places, getting people to stare, chatting folk up, finding out what it needs to be found out, prying under conversational rocks, and every once in a while reminding people that I have an awful lot of teeth. I think the closest explanation, it's not the right word, it's somewhere, but it's... she's going to give this really odd rumbling noise that kind of sounds like thunder, like thunder and a waterfall at the same time. It sort of translates to compassionate spy, murderous diplomat. I guess is the closest way. Again, it's just one of those words that just doesn't work well in outside my culture, but that's sort of my job description. Compassionate spy, in human terms, she says. Again, I don't know much about elves. I'm really sorry. So yeah, compassionate spy and murderous diplomat, I guess, is my job description. And
Have you murdered someone? Have you murdered someone?
oh, of course, she says. We all do. At some point in our lives, even if we don't know it, you do. You either neglect someone, you overwater someone, you heap too much, you deny too much, you punch too much, you don't punch enough. In some point in our lives, yes, you're going to kill somebody. It's just the way the world is, she says. The issue is whether or not you meant to do it. To me, that's the greater sin. If you're going to do something, do it intentionally.
Well, I think we need to go get some party clothes.
Yes, because you bluntly, I suspect, do your best to look to not look like ragamuffins. Ramiki just won't shut up otherwise.
Don't worry about that.
She smiles. Like I say, Jazina speaks very highly about you, so I figured it was okay, but bluntly, Ramiki sets my teeth on edge, so I figured I wanted to give you as much warning as possible. Actually, instead of she didn't say gets my teeth on edge, she said gets my tongue between my teeth.
Oh. Does
When Alexander picks a jaw up off the floor.
He muted. We're out. Good night.
does Ramiki sound like someone I would know? Like, is she well known enough? Like, is she, the I don't know, I need a pop singer.
Ariana Grande.
Is she the Ariana Grande to my Paris Hilton?
I think the question at the end of that day is, this is really a question about culture. She is described as a bit of a cultural crusader, but there aren't a lot of ebon elves hanging out around Shining Capital. So I think I think probably it's a learning role. To see, and I'll actually give you advantage 1 on this just because of your background. To have Because I mean, if she's as good as she is, she's like, if she's good as she is reported to be, she almost would have had to have done a performance at Shining Capital.
Right.
Whether you were there, whether or not Alexandre was there, is irrelevant. Because your mother's the sort of person who would have babbled about that endlessly. Either how bad it was or how good it was. I recognize that face. What's the total?
29.
That's what I thought you were going to say. You absolutely have heard of her, and yes, she's more like a Britney Spears. Technically brilliant, in what it is she does, and in amongst Confederate culture, largely reviled for it.
What? Britney's amazing.
Yes, exactly. Like I say, she's technically brilliant, and she's so not what everyone wants to listen to that mainstream culture has no idea what's going on. Like, most people just think, most people have no idea what the song Toxic's about. Another good parallel would be Gaga. Again, technically brilliant, and so off the wall to mainstream culture that most people wouldn't give her a good review if you paid them. Yeah, the fans adore her. The mainstream culture has no idea what she's on about. I think is probably the. Don't draw too much inference from the 2 points of reference, but Ariana Grande is far more mainstream and acceptable, for lack of a better way of putting it. So yeah, much more. Like I say, I'm probably showing my age with those 2 references, but anyway. Yeah. And there goes Beanie.
Good morning, Beanie.
I was just going to say, yep, it's 10:30. Okay, there's Beanie. What it is, I found out, is that Chris, in her morning routine, comes down around 10:30 to feed them. And I just realized, oh yeah, I didn't stop in before the stream. So there, Beanie is trying to make sure that Chrissy, who isn't home this weekend, knows that it's time to be fed. So okay, after the show, next time we take a break, I'll run in and dump some food in their feeder.
You'd better feed me. He's singing. That's what's going on.
He's a great little Roo and looks after his girls. So yes, he's making sure there's food and water available. So yeah. So I apologize to everyone on the VOD and in the stream right now. You're going to be listening to him for probably the next 5 minutes until he's convinced everyone in the house has gotten the point.
Yes.
All right. So in character, out of character, any questions? Just let me know which version of the just let me know where which side the character is. Which side the question is aimed at.
I got no questions.
All right. So Ms. Gray will hang out and chit-chat for a little bit. And then basically shortly after she hits the bottom of the bottle with y'all, will excuse herself and stroll out the door. Mostly in a straight line, but also giggling slightly based on the way her tail's moving and the way her whiskers are moving. And like I say, she's. I think Spider is able to appreciate just how disruptive she is. Like, I think it's going to cross Spider's mind that someone like her, as a front man for him back in the days when he was doing a lot of street crime, would have been the ultimate Benny Hill show. He could have fleeced an entire crowd in the time it took her to smile. You're muted, mate.
I was saying she reminds me of some friends, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So yeah. So what is the cunning plan for you folk? It is morning, by the way.
Montage.
Okay. Let's hear your suggestion for a montage, and then we'll see if everybody else agrees.
Before, like, it's very sort of like it occurs to me, Lucas, that you have a choice. You either go more nondescript, or if we are expecting trouble, it might be more use to make sure your armor is up to par visually. I'm not,
I don't want us out there without all our equipment.
and it potentially, Jasper, I mean, you could, watch from a hidden point, keep a overview.
We're on the same page, my friend.
Right, so we go get my armor polished.
Sorry, why? What?
Essentially, I was saying, like, whether
no.
he...
It's not that. Alexandre has only just started paying attention again.
that was an Alexandre, not a
Just gonna say
Chantal.
the tail.
Yeah, that was an Alexandre.
The piece of tail, as it were, is out of sight, and so yeah, Alexandria is suddenly back in the room.
Yeah.
What's the discussion?
We are discussing our plans for tonight.
Good. Yes.
I recommend not appearing. It would be best, given the description we've had of this woman, that you give the impression of not trying to one-up her, I guess.
What? Why?
Feel like if she is, as our friend has described, might not take it well.
Imagine, Alexandre, you have to be best friends with Eleonora.
No.
And you
You're
need
saying and, I said no.
and you need to let Eleonora be the center of attention. And do nothing to eclipse that. I'm gonna.
When did we decide this plan?
When we told Aquidian that we would.
Oh.
It's just, if we are going to be her protectors, it will be, I will obviously, it's easier if I just am very obviously a bodyguard. For Lucas, it is weakened choice. He could go as a guest or part of her entourage, but actually be a defender. But at the same time, it might be better for him to also be armed and armored as best as able. Jasper can watch hidden from a distance, but you would probably be better suited to be as if you were accompanying her as a friend, which is fine. But if this woman is as
volatile
is a good word, as described, then not setting her off, I guess, will make our lives easier, which would be not trying to appear as if you were trying to one-up her, while also not appearing as if you were trying to make her look bad. There is a center point that needs to be hit. I was merely pointing it out. I have no advice how to do that.
I will do my best not to look good.
I'm sorry.
No, that's what I'm saying. You have to look good.
Did Chevalier really?
You can't look better than her.
not too good.
Did Chevalier really just say, "Don't be a brat," but I'm not sure how you'll achieve that?
No. He said, I don't know how to achieve that balancing act because I don't wear clothes often, or fashion is weird and confusing, but I entirely trust that you know how to thread the needle of not looking bad, but not looking better than the person next to you. It's like, that sounds difficult, and I don't know how to do it. Just pointing out that you might need to.
I saw her perform, so I know what she wears. Sort of. Maybe a few years out, fashion-wise. I'll find it. I have to shop.
Montage.
Montage? What is a montage?
It's a way of getting around very quickly.
I cast montage, level 3. Oh, now I want to make a spell called montage.
Yeah, me too.
Makes menial tasks go really quickly.
Can we just have power level 3 spoon montage? I'm writing it. It's happening.
There's a mechanic for this in some games.
I'm just gonna say
There is.
it's probably one of the best bits about Robin Law's feng shui, is you can justify having any skill in the game at any point as long as you have XP by simply narrating a training montage and saying, so that's why I have a skill that applies right now.
That's funny. That's really you can sort of do the same. I don't know if it's like a house rule, but I've seen it played this way all the time with Forge in the Dark games. Like, you don't have to spend your experience immediately. You can just hold on to it. And, I mean, we can do that here too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'd have to double check. I think, if I remember correctly with Open Legend, it actually explicitly says it's okay to hang on to XP until you need it for something. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, because you can't spend exactly the right amount as you level.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need to be able to hold on to excess.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's one of the things about point buy games is by definition you've got to be able to save up the points. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I was in a vampire game once where one of the guys was very good at persuasion. Like, we joked that his persuasion was high enough that he didn't actually need dominate. He just told people. It's like if he came up to you and said, "You're actually a dog," they'd be like, "Woof." But then at one point, but he just didn't, because that was really all he was doing. It was like that was his hammer, and there's a lot of nails around.
Yeah.
He hadn't been spending a bunch of experience, and we got into a situation where he's like, "I don't know if I can do my usual shtick here. Can I just realize I'm good at intimidation?" He's like, "Look, I don't normally do it this way, but..." It was like suddenly scary. I'm like, oh.
Since being nice clearly isn't going to work, I'm going to remind you this is a game about vampires. Yeah. I mean, all right then. So what is the content of the montage there, Lucas?
Well, I think it is a combination of getting my armor polished, but also like making sure that like all of like my undergarments, my breeches, I've got to buy a new pair of breeches to go with it. You know, like it's just making myself look like a fancy knight. Whereas before, like when I fought in the tournament, that was kind of just me wearing my day wear. And it was that was an opportunity. This time, it's more like a bit more ceremonial. I'm going to be escorting, you know, this amazing prima donna, this amazing singer. So, I mean, it only makes sense that she'd have like, yes, a giant robot floating around her, but also like, you know, a stately looking knight.
Gotta get all the dents out.
Yeah. Get all the dents out, polish it up, maybe a little bit of a coat of paint to some of the little bits to get some of the, you know, some of the insignias brushed up.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Might get a haircut.
Yes. Which one?
Just on the temple.
Okay.
Just
yeah. So that's cool. Does anyone else need anything to get done during the?
I'd want to like essentially get a pace out the where we're going.
Okay.
Like the to and from sections particularly being like,
All right.
we're starting here and going.
Yeah. You can see the.
Yeah, I'll come with you for that.
Yeah. All right. Oops, wrong. So I've got the map up on the website, obviously. You guys can, so, I mean, you've been, in this area for a while. You've hung out here. So you guys are sort of in the top the northeast corner of the Guilds and Merchants district, and you're heading over the governor's residence, which is literally the other quarter, if you will, of the downtown. And so it's this isn't even hard. It's not that far. It's maybe a 10-minute walk. Now you are aware of the fact that culture here tends to evening culture tends to resemble a rave, and if the gouvernement is doing it, it's probably going to attract an awful lot of people. But yeah, I think that's probably, if Spider or Chevalier have a concern, it's that essentially just the raw number of people on the walkover is going to be problematic. If the evening joust rave that you guys saw is any indication, it's going to be ridiculous. The number of people that if the gouvernement is doing something want to be seen, or want to see people being seen. Nightlife's a big deal in this town, for lack of a better way of putting it.
What's
in a way,
the,
I think probably isn't the case in Shining Capital.
What's the state of vantage points in terms of is there lots of roofs I could be jumping from roof to roof from, or
Well, I was just gonna say, so if
is it big open highway streets?
Well, if you take a look at the map, so the line, the A to B-ish, the most A to B-ish is actually, and again, you're talking about an opera diva in an evening gown. For Spider, the A to B-ish is pretty much, directly, from across through the trees across the fountain square and up to the southwest gate of the Gavernois residence. And if you take a look around that area, well, the Sinru district is walled with trees. The fountain square is surrounded by trees and surrounded by buildings. Particularly, there's several tall 2-story, 2.5-story buildings abutting the Great Market that would have line of sight out into the Fountain Square, essentially the central square of the town. And then, of course, the Gavernois residence is literally nothing but buildings and roads.
Got that like Assassin's Creed quality where it's like, oh no, we're going into there's a neat little jumpable path.
I think from Chevalier's perspective, there's not much you could do with a high road. I think from Spider's perspective, there's going to be a couple of places where he doesn't have to roll, and there's going to be a few places where if he desperately wanted to cross the main street here, he just could. With a good enough roll, he could. And that's before Spider even worried about things like gear. Keep in mind, and as a reminder, one of the things that Aquidian told you folks was that he had concerns about the Lamplighters Guild involved in this. The Lamplighters Guild, by definition, are a bunch of assassins walking around with ladders.
Yeah.
Right? Or at least that's the explanation that Spider's been given about them.
Yeah, this is what I was sort of trying to get at with Rachel before, because I'd forgotten that piece of information, but I remember now. Yes, useful.
So,
Watch out for men with ladders. Got it.
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna say, and that's sort of a bit more meme than it needs to be. It's not like every guy you see up on a lamppost actually lighting a lamp is a bad guy immediately. It means that the guild uses that front as a
Yeah.
reasonable excuse to have a random bad guy where they ought not to be. Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, there are real garbage men in the mafia too.
Right. Exactly. It's exactly that thing because it's a convenient excuse to be out in really odd hours, climbing up the side of a wall or climbing up the side of a lamppost and looking around. Right. That's literally the job of being a lamplighter, is going throughout the town at night, making sure that all the lamps are lit. So yeah, George, you're sick tonight. Stay home and get paid. Okay. And, somebody from the Black Bag Division is now doing George's job tonight. Conveniently, etc. Right? Is much more the mechanism. Or hey,
Yeah.
John, Lulu, when you were lamplighting over on Saints Row, did you notice a bunch of people who looked like this going by? Well, as a matter of fact, I did, boss. Thanks. Here's your bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Lulu's not an inherently bad person, but has learned to keep her eyes out for conspicuous people, etc.
Okay. That's good. I think as we sort of like finishing our reconnaissance, I'll turn to Chevalier and say, do we want to see if we can actually get admittance to the stage area and have a look around?
Couldn't hurt. It occurs to me, if we are conspicuous, obviously that might attract bounty hunters to also make an attempt, but Lucas's knight friend may also be at this social event.
Has crossed my mind.
Probably even more reason to make sure he is wearing his armor.
Agreed.
Let's see if we can see backstage.
All right.
Yeah, so we're going to go to the governor's mansion and actually ask about the...
Yeah,
Like, we'll be upfront about it too, that we're security detail for the performers for the following evening.
yeah. So, as a reminder, the Gavernois residence literally has a small castle in the middle of it. It's as much a military base as it is an administrative center. These places are again. There's a literal outer. There's an outer dike. 3-meter tall wall with turrets. Then you get into the inside area, and inside that is a small keep.
Yeah.
Right? If you take a look at the map, that's the artwork. There is a literal military unit camped in the back right corner of the place, in the northeast corner.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're worried about, like an army attacking us. We're more worried about, like, are there places to hide near the stage, which we should keep our eyes on?
I guess my point is that a warbot and a wanted rogue, just walked into into Fort Briggs. I guess is what I'm trying to.
I'm wearing a high-colored shirt. You can't see my tattoos. I could be anybody.
Yeah, as opposed to a Yakuza brat. I mean, it's just keep in mind the picture here. Yeah, we're security. Honest, we are.
I mean,
That's why I'm not saying it. But if Jasper said it, it'd sound much better.
yeah. I mean, if I say we're working security for the what are they called? The Arashikali?
The family.
Dashamali.
The Ashamali. There you go. Dashamali. And
Yeah, so I think just because there's going to be an awful lot of side-eye going along, and as well there is literally a wanted poster with your name on it circulating, I think I would like to see a persuasion roll.
yeah, sure. I mean, I don't introduce myself as.
No, but for lack of a better way of putting it, if the dice are incredibly cruel, then literally the guy was just looking at your photo before he came on duty this morning.
Well, he better be bloody good because this D8 just exploded twice. It's a 29.
All right, yeah, yeah.
This is not the droid you're looking for.
Exactly.
The spider can have considerable influence over the weak-minded. I mean... So, yeah, there'll be not even really a discussion. Spider's just gonna say, yeah, we're with the band kind of thing. And, oh, okay, yeah, sure, go on in. You're supposed to be here kind of thing. I think there's actually going to be, you're just out of the corner of your ears, you're walking away. You just let them in? Yeah, I'm a fan of hers. She's amazing. So, yeah, I mean, the place is pretty much exactly the way it looks on the map. The only difference is that right now, so they're literally in the process of converting the tourney grounds over in the northwest corner. They're basically taking down the center dividing rail. They're doing basically, and about midfield, they're in the process of putting up essentially an octagonal, a two-level octagonal stage arrangement. That's obviously got a spot for the that's got a spot for the band, whatever orchestra or whatever is going to be playing, and then whoever's going to be singing and whatever. I think you guys actually got there early enough that you're going to see the equivalent of the special effects team doing a test, where there's going to be this very grumpy looking gnome off to a side, basically saying, "I don't get paid enough for this. Just do it." Fine. And he's going to be, a bunch of very complicated bubbles and things that all glow in whatever little shots of electricity, and he's going to, do the maestro thing, and the entire stage is actually going to lift off the ground slightly and start to turn. And then settle back down again. I told you it'd work. Fine. So, yes. Yeah, I think the best way of putting this actually, I'm gonna ask, I think I will ask, both of you to do, logic rolls with advantage. Chevalier gets advantage because he has a background bodyguard, and Spider because he gets advantage because, well, basically he's had to solve this problem from the other side of the equation at least once. So between the two of you, you're sort of assessing the problem from both sides, both the defense team and the attack team perspective.
It's good to get the advantage because my first roll was a 1, but 17.
17. Okay, yeah, that's more than reasonable. Yeah.
I'm just checking. Logic is, yeah, I got a 15.
15. All right. So those are challenging difficulty rolls. So I think the best way of explaining it is both of you are going to draw the conclusion that you're not going to be able to do anything about an inside job. There are just if somebody is on the gouverneur's staff is on the take, you're going to find out at the last possible moment. There's just too many alleys, buildings, there are trees, there are bushes, blah, blah, blah.
There's a lifting stage.
If this is going to be... but that having been said, I think it's not going to be lost on either Chevalier or Spider that if there's going to be a problem, this would be the dumbest place to do it.
Yeah.
There is literally a military unit camped out back, and there are gates. You cause a problem here. They lock they lock the door, and then you're playing keep away with a bunch of pissed off soldiers.
Yeah, they'd have to want to make a real statement to do it here, and be willing to potentially sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be, and the thing at the end of the day, I think Spider would know enough about the way assassins guilds work internally is that you don't waste your people. That's literally, if you get one of your crew killed, that's literally a drop in revenue. That's a dumb idea.
Yeah, that's more the kind of thing a family would do themselves if it was really personal. And...
Yeah, I was just gonna say yes. That suicide missions are the realm of fanatics, not professionals.
Yeah, difficult to motivate someone to do a suicide mission with money.
Yes.
Yes. So the only way...
I hear if you put bombs in the back of their necks, that's the best one.
Yeah. So I think, for lack of a better way of putting it, I think at the end of the day, the piece that is going to stick out to both of you with those roles is that this is going to be an absolute zoo if anyone's that stupid. If anyone's a fanatic enough to try here, there's no way to dissuade them. You actually have to physically stop them. Which the professionals will be on the outside.
Yeah.
The only thing I think Spider's going to be able to come up with is there's a couple of spots that a genuinely capable sniper who is really, really ballsy could take a shot from up on high and then use the high road on the way out, because it would be unlikely that your typical soldier is going to be able to chase them along that line.
Yeah, I'll point them out to Chevalier and say, I'll keep my eye out on these locations. Ideally, I suppose you need to stay close enough to her that if I shout, you can do your thing that you do.
Yes. Though, hopefully, Quidian is correct, and they are not trying to kill her, merely wound her to cast the family into a bad light. That professional sniper feels more like a kill job, but if they are good enough to do that, they might be good enough to shoot to wound, I guess.
Worth keeping our eyes out just in case.
Yeah.
Certainly, yes.
So I think
I'd actually been meaning to ask you, since we were last in a pickle, what do you call them? The little ones. Are they
the orbs?
Right. Are they part of you, or are they? Not
Yes
like your
and
children
no,
or
I
something, are
guess.
they?
No, it's not a. It's They are like, in a sense, like the armored form, the reinforcement. It's similar material. It's just been put to use differently with a different objective.
Right. So they're not individuals. They're just
No,
a thing you do.
they are machines that have been given a task, but they are not sentient. No.
Right. Right. Good. I think
At least I hope they're not.
I think our attention should be focused primarily on the walk to and from.
Depending on the crowd, it could certainly be complicated, but I'm sure between myself and Lucas we can keep regular people at bay so that anyone trying to do something will be noticed.
I saw a number of people when we were last here with night umbrellas. I wonder whether we might be able to obscure her presence better in the crowd with overhead covering of such.
Potentially. Stops anyone. Any lookouts from, well, but maybe stops a lookout.
Any precautions we can take? Hopefully she's up for it.
Yes, that is also a consideration, how cooperative she intends to be.
That's probably all I have for that scene.
Alexandre, Lucas, anything you two want to do?
I'm buying a dress that's like nice, but you know, like Alexandre struggles because it's just not in her nature to like not look her absolute best. So
It's also not in her nature to play second fiddle, as it were.
oh no. So she just gets the nicest dress and hopes that she can moderate it with makeup. Because let's be honest, she couldn't do it otherwise. She's just like, I'll just tone down everything else.
Right.
Like she gets a nice dress, less nice shoes. Like she just kind of goes, she's like, let me just.
The dress.
Yeah.
Shopperton's like, look, this looks amazing. They both look amazing, but I think this one's a little bit better. And she's like, all right, well, I'll take the other one then.
She absolutely wouldn't spend money on that. That's not how that works. that doesn't work to Alexandre. So she's just gonna have to like, you know, go for her second favorite shade of lipstick and wear that other perfume instead, and I don't know, deliberately mismatch her nail and toe color, her fingernail and toenail color, like.
The sacrifices that must be made under these circumstances.
The things she does for la chanson.
Lucas, so I think it's not going to be too difficult. I will, just because I think it's funny at this stage, am going to ask you to make a presence roll.
Let's see what this brings up. Oddly enough, Lucas, I did put points in presence. I've got a 4 in presence, so we'll see what this does. All right. Uh, 22.
For lack of a better way of putting it, Lucas attempting to be inconspicuous after recent events is sort of like walking around with a neon sign and being puzzled about why it's bright around. And so I think you're going to arrive at some armorer's shop. It's going to be the equivalent of you know, everyone's having a coffee break. You walk in. You know, you're going to be backlit by the glow of the morning sun. The glints and dents in your armor will shimmer majestically. And I need this fixed. And she's like, "Oh, of course, Sir Knight. We would be honored." And and one of the guys operating the bellows is immediately runs. "I saw him at the thing the other night. He was awesome, man." So,
yes, I was. You're too kind. No, it was a mere trifle of a fight.
And I think a slightly grumpyish, well, not really grumpiest, just more gruff possibly than is required. He's got an eye patch, couple burns on his face. Your typical "I'm here to bend metal with my bare fists" dwarf. He's gonna look over at you and says, "Yeah, trifle of a fight. Pissed off a few people, I heard, but it's okay. We'll get you all kitted up. They want round 2. You look damn good doing it."
Well, it's all about the looks, isn't it?
Sorry, Michelle just had an urge to quote Billy Crystal, and I'm desperately trying not to do that right now.
Do it, do it, do it. We haven't held back from quoting pop
It's that
culture.
kind of night. Like,
Sorry, it's the it doesn't matter how you look. Don't be a schnook.
Yes.
It's not how you feel. It's how you look. You look marvelous. So,
Yeah.
but just the idea of a dwarf quoting that would just no. I just can't. I don't.
Ironically.
Yeah, exactly. So you're gonna be no problem at all. Get your armor buffed and polished and dents removed and a little bit of fresh paint on the parts where livery is supposed to be, and a bit of extra polish and wax on the parts that are supposed to be shiny and all the other good stuff.
Right.
A few straps that are getting dubious, prone to failure, will get replaced, and a few things like that. Can't let you go out there looking like this. Not coming out of my workshop. Nope. Replace those buckles. Something good and brass. Don't want nothing. Don't want that dull iron stuff around here. Not happening. No, replace those.
Right.
Etc. Etc. So, for lack of a better way of putting it, you're going to have +2 bloody awesome, -2 bloody conspicuous for the purposes of the.
Look, when now that I'm all nice and shiny, I can't help it. It's just may as well have a. Did I buy a sign that said my name is Lucas Edgewater at the same time, just to hang above my head?
It's apparently not required. So, alrighty, folks, we're going to take our next break. So I need to refill the mug and all the other good stuff. So, yeah, we'll be back in a few minutes. Hope everyone's having fun. And, we'll see we'll see how things go. Right back.
Brilliant.
All right, folks, we are back. Thank you. So, yeah, the group was just realizing that there is one potential issue with all the clever planning.
Yeah.
What would that be there, Chevalier? Or Sam?
I think I was commenting that we can plan for a lot of eventualities, but we can't plan for the diva.
You're used to one. You should be able to.
That's not remotely the same. Lucas is fine.
We're working on him.
No one can plan for me anyway.
No, yeah, that's an entirely different thing.
All right. So, I think what we're going to do here, we just all realized that we're actually pretty trash. So I think what we're going to do is do a bit of a wrap up on the prep, and we'll call that for this week, and we'll launch out. I think Sam suggested we'll do literally an in media res start next session, with it basically being tomorrow evening, and the group having to deal with Ramika walking in and saying, "You people can't possibly be my bodyguards." I think is going to be literally the lead-in to the conversation next.
I feel like our montage just like ups in ante, and it's just like little cuts of us like each like Lucas is like tightening a leather strap, Alexandria's doing her makeup, Chevalier's being Chevalier, and Spider
That mean.
Spider's like putting his gloves on or something. Like everyone's like getting ready, like, and it's and then we're all like, but we're really serious, like we're superheroes.
All right. Is there anything else anybody wants to know, or about anything so far? You guys have got time to do a little bit of legwork. There's obviously, there are probably still a few questions hanging out in the air. Is there anything you guys want to dig into over the essentially legwork phase over the next day or so?
So Lucas would definitely do maybe drop a little while he was getting his armor done. I reckon he'd ask a little bit about Lancium.
All right.
Or Lancian.
Okay, yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm great, but what about that other guy, huh?
Yeah. So explain to me how are you fishing here? Are you trying? Is it going to be?
Look, I'm just going to admire the armor and the craftsmanship, and I'd be like, oh, this reminds me of the detailing on Lancium. Like,
okay, fair enough.
I'm going to flatter. I'm going to rely on this presence roll that I got earlier.
All right. Yeah, sure. So hang on a second, and let's see if any of these guys even know Lancium beyond the fact that he fought you last week. Last week at this point. That's actually a surprisingly good roll. So I'm a D4 and a D20, and wound up with a 22. So yeah, surprisingly 21. Sorry, so surprisingly good roll. The guy who's clearly running the place, not the dwarf actually, but a human fellow, who hasn't actually been saying much up to this point. He's been mostly letting the dwarf is clearly the guy that is the shop foreman, if you will, and is directing most of the traffic, while there's this other chap who's sitting over in the back, working on some fine detailing work. It looks like he's doing some engraving or something. And so when the conversation wanders over to about Lancium, the guy in the back will speak up, and he says, "Yeah, oh yeah, actually, I don't know him personally, but one of my guild mates, he's a regular over there. He's quite a fellow, actually. Yeah, he's quite well recognized. He's an accomplished fighter. I know there's a lot of people who think he's quite a good lad. He's got a temper, of course, but I think honestly, it sort of comes with the territory. You don't get to the point that folks like you two are at without having a bit of an aggression. Passive doesn't seem to serve most knights."
Is he the kind of gentleman to hold a grudge?
Oh, I don't know him personally. Like I say, I've just heard sort of hearsay, talking about. We all talk about each other's clients. You night folk are all kind of conspicuous. So in having one of you, patronize one of us is sort of a bit of a tap. Everybody else who thinks you guys are great thinks, won't surprise me too much if there's a bit of a nod, if I get a bit of a nod in business for just having you having come in and out my door. But so someone like Lancium, who's a bit of a local favorite, Anguir and all, right? Yeah. So we chat about it. We chat amongst each other about who it is we've seen lately. Like I say, he strikes me as, from what I've heard, as a folk who's got a bit of a temper. I'm not sure grudge is his style, though. He seems to be he's had a bit of a rough road, and I get the impression he's a bit of a live and let live kind of guy. I mean, I expect if you got in his grill about something enough, he'd eventually decide he'd had enough of you. But,
Yeah, if only someone would ever do that.
Interesting. Where I come from, we tend to, sort out our petty grievances with a firm handshake. But it seems that things over here seem to be a little bit more, well, I don't know, in your face.
Oh yeah. He kind of laughs. He beckons you over, where he's working on a set of gauntlets. By the way, is what he's doing. He's currently in the process of essentially working a engraving. It's a fully articulated set of gauntlets. Comes up to about there. Obviously, they're jousting gauntlets. Like I say, they're multi-part articulated. And what he's in the process of engraving is a peacock feather pattern onto them. Is what he's working on right now. So he literally got the jeweler's glass. It's probably the first time you've ever seen a jeweler's glass in the eye of an armorer. But that's what he's tapping his way through right now, and then working very carefully with a push. So he's gonna look up for a moment and kind of tip the glass up. He says, "Yeah, oh, out on the edge of civilization." Kind of rolls his eyes. The way the Confederacy views the place, yeah, things may be a little bit rougher, but at the end of the day, mostly what everyone around here gives a damn about is whether or not your word's worth anything, and whether or not the words you speak actually, it's okay to make big talk. It's another thing if you can't back it up. And it's one thing to make big promises, but if you don't actually follow through. I guess the best way of putting it is we just don't do politics much around here. You either are or you aren't who you are, and if you aren't, we don't have much time for you. And if you are who you are, then we don't have to worry too much about it, do we?
No. It's a simple way to live.
Doesn't matter about a handshake if the handshake's worth nothing. Doesn't matter about a punch in the jaw if it doesn't connect. He shrugs.
Well, I will make sure to let my friends know about your fine establishment here.
Oh, much appreciate that. I do appreciate your business, Anguir. It's good to see you. He kind of pauses for a moment, and he kind of, lean forward a bit. He says, if you're worried about Lancium holding a grudge about the spectacle the other evening, I suspect he probably had forgotten by morning. He, as far as I know, was spent most of the rest of the evening out in Red Bricks. Gives you a nod.
Is that where he normally hangs out?
Oh yeah, he's living his best life, having managed to come up, pull himself up by his bootstraps. He's let's just call him a patron of the arts, as seen in the Red Bricks district.
Thank you.
No problem.
And thank you for this fine armor. It's never looked better.
you Engweir, that's one of those things. Most of you earn where you came from the hard way. You punch your weight all the way up, but no one ever actually bothers to ask whether or not you've had a chance to look the part after that. So one of those things I like to do is make sure that you Engweir, he says after a moment of introspection, are pretty much the face of the whole damn Confederacy. When there's a bunch of troops to be led, you're the ones up front. When there's when there's an honor guard to be mustered, you're the ones in the ranks. Literally, what we look like to everybody else in the world is on your shoulders. I'll be damned if I'm going to have one of you walk out of my shop looking like a bag of hammers.
Thing is, when you stand out so much, people like to aim at you.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have become an Engweir if you didn't like that sort of thing, he says with a laugh.
Of course. Toodles.
Cheers. All right. So, yeah. Okay.
I have a question.
Sure, what's the question?
Do I recognize a peacock feather?
Make a really good learning roll and maybe.
Okay. How good's good? I got a 21.
Oof, yeah, that's good. That's probably the Gouverneur's personal coat of arms.
Ooh, okay. Personal coat of
I
arms.
keep mispronouncing it. It's the Gouverneur's part of the Gouverneur's personal coat of arms features a feather. So it's unlikely it's the Gouverneur's armor. It's probably her personal champion or someone close to her. I don't think you have I don't think you guys have heard any reputation that suggests the Gouvernois is a military person at all. She's, as I recall, I'm not going to go digging through notes right now, but I'm pretty sure she's an administrative titan as opposed to a military one. But it wouldn't, if she's got a special friend or something, it wouldn't be terribly surprising to gift spiffy armor, or if she has a personal champion that, for ceremonial reasons has to look like $1 million. It wouldn't be terribly surprising that she'd commission some work. I think probably the most surprising part is that you coincidentally walked into the place that it's getting it done, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Thank you.
I'd like to try something.
Yeah, what would that be?
Standing in a side street, because, Alexandre would like to cast Detection, which is a new spell. It's a new boon. And it gives her extraordinary vision that allows her to see colored auras that correlate to magical, spiritual, or other extraordinary forces. Common examples include a paladin detecting a suspect's true intentions, a psychic reading the aura of a location, or a cyborg scanning the terrain for signs of life. I'd like to try to detect in the middle of the daytime. So, she could end up absolutely terrified of walking anywhere alone forever. But detecting murderers through death.
Okay, so I'm going to have to. This is potentially one of those roles that could spiral really quickly. So I'm going to ask you first on, where are you? Are you down the Gildan Merchant District? Are you in the Great Market? Are you hanging around the Gouverneur's residence? Are you in the Sinru's Garden District? Are you in the Judiciary? Are you up by Saints Row? Are you in Red Brick? Where are you? Tell me enough.
Yeah, I was gonna be somewhere on the high road, so between the guilds and merchants and the Sinru.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So good. Okay. So you're basically in the you're in the new town. Okay. Got it. Yep. So go ahead and roll that. Let's see what you come up with.
That was a 12, but the power level is a 1. So 12 it meets it.
All right.
I think it's potentially important for the boon. It only triggers off like deliberate action.
It's deliberate action. So if someone,
So if you, it's not like, and it also it only remains for a time after the action. So if you
Yes.
kill someone, you will radiate an aura of death
Yeah.
for a while,
yes,
unless you're undead. Undead
just keep going.
give off all the time.
Yeah, well,
So-
that's the awkward part about this discussion. I'm going to say that just because the power level there isn't tremendous, so I don't think you're capable of digging too deep into it. But I'm going to say that glancing around the crowd, nothing particularly strikes out at you. But at the same token, you have this vague sense of unease about everywhere you look. You can't see any reason for it, and yet it's kind of like having... It's the emotional equivalent of fingers on a chalkboard.
Right. If I... Okay. Weird question. If I look at the ground, does it get worse? It gets worse.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that because again there's this weird time dilation thing that happens between game time versus real world. I think Alexandria is a smart enough girl to immediately understand that that probably an awful lot of people would have died in the Great Fire, and so there's basically a background imprint that she's hearing on this area. So if someone had just, if an actually bad member of the Lamplighters was to walk by, she'd see them. But at the same time, anywhere in the downtown has got this really my feet don't want to touch the ground feeling right now. Like how cats, if they get something on their paw, try and hover. Yeah, that's exactly the sensation you've got. It's specifically because you're in the new town area, which is built on the remains of the Great Fire.
Goody. Where are we staying again? We're in that same district.
Absolutely.
Goody. Yes.
Good news is you can turn that off, I think. Just unplug that for the night.
It's one of those, like, now you've seen it?
Yeah.
Just for a moment, Chantel thought, oh my goodness, we're standing on an army of undead. Quick, run!
No.
I mean, not yet.
Not yet.
That's next week's version. Sorry. So yeah, all right. Anything else you folks want to do legwork wise before we wrap? Okay. So interesting ability, by the way, because almost implicitly and explicitly, it would allow Alexandri to work as a tracker for any, if someone does real bad tomorrow night, it would literally allow Alexandri to help run them down. So that's an interesting ability. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Bloodhound. Bloodhound Chantel turns into Bloodhound Alexandri. It comes full circle.
I actually like, just the idea of a psychic bloodhound is one of those character concepts I always thought was fancy.
So yeah. I do. I have one last thing, but it happens towards like the end of the day.
Sure. What's up?
Are we seeing? Is Ramiki coming after sundown?
Yeah. Well, yes, almost by definition. So Ramiki will be what you've been. Sorry, in case I probably.
Oh yeah, of course, right, because she's.
Yeah. So so what you know from the conversations between Equidian and Rachel. By the way, for those of you who haven't noticed, Equidian can't possibly be his real name. It's obvious.
Not nearly enough apostrophes.
Right. He's the only one who's got a very human-sounding name. But it's also been broadly stated by his family, both close and extended. That's sort of his job, as he's the human ambassador, if you will. Right. And so it sounds like everything else about Equidian, he seems to have sort of have this affected a set of affectations designed to make his dealings in the humans world easier. And you suspect his name is probably close enough to Equidian. He just intentionally mispronounces it. I guess is probably your suspicion at this point. Anyway, so yes, so between Equidian and Rachel, I think what you would know is that Ramiki will be arriving probably tonight, and then the performance is tomorrow night and the night after. And so the idea is you would meet up with Ramiki in person, here or at the Saucy Wench, and and that's you guys' job.
Well, then what I want to do is, so it's not, the performance is not this night.
Yeah, it's tomorrow night.
Right. So I want to go out this night before sundown and find a good place where I can watch all the people who come and light the lamps. And I'm going to use my like observant feet thing for the day to just be real sure that I know all those faces and what they ought to look like.
Yeah, I like that. Sure. So you're gonna be scoping out potential problems in advance.
Yeah, well, it's more that I'm like looking at the people. I mean, yeah, if one of them looks like a suspect, then I'll also keep an eye out for that. Mm-hmm. But even if these people don't look suspicious, I want to remember them all so that when I see someone different tomorrow, okay, I can see what you're doing. So identify them quickly.
If they do, John, stay home, you're sick tonight. Then when John isn't the guy lighting the lamp tomorrow night, then you'll have a hint. Okay, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. So, okay, yeah. I think there's no need for a roll for that. You're basically going to throw time and a special ability at it, I think, and I think you get an automatic 16 on.
Yeah, 16 is the minimum.
Yeah, so I think we can just nod yes about that. I think probably the part that's going to strike you most amusingly is the fact that while I'm sure they think they're being really clever and inobvious, but right about the same time, it's really obvious when Ramiki arrives. By the way, she's literally showing up in an armed convoy. There's just no other way to explain what it's her in a horse-drawn in essentially a two-wheeled carriage with four burly lads, two human, two ebon elf, on horseback riding along with her. And the only way I can explain is she flounces out of the thing, berates them all for having taken so long to get her here, and then whoosh, and huffs her way into the Saucy Wench. But I think the part that so Spider's certainly not going to have missed that. But I think the part that Spider's going to notice is the fact that there's a group of obvious dockyard guys, like. They look like a bunch of stevedores who have tried to change clothes so they look like less like stevedores, and have done. This is their third lap around the block.
Right.
So you've recognized. I think by virtue of that automatic 16, these guys are just. They think they're doing a good job of being sneaky. And for most other people, they're probably right. For you, they kind of stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. They weren't expecting someone looking for them. They were just wanted to blend in for the naked eye.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, like I say, it's a bunch of stevedores trying to look like not stevedores walking through the expensive district of the town. And they've gone, like I say, and they've gone by you 3 times in the past hour and a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you've seen the lamp crew come and go. Oddly enough, I think the best way of explaining it is the lamplighter was there almost a full 5 minutes before the diva drop off happened, and was conspicuously gone before they arrived.
Yep.
So yeah, you're sort of vaguely aware what schedule the lamplighters run on. At about as soon as the sun starts to redden the sky a smidge, the lamplighters are out in force, and then as the sky starts to lighten in the morning, they're again out in force, and sort of the in between gap is just the maintenance crew wandering around, making sure that nothing's run out. So just this guy was here almost like 15 minutes early, come and gone 15 minutes before he should have been.
Yeah. All right. Good to know.
All right. Anything else? Yes.
I have one more question.
Yes.
And I would like to use my Whisper of the Wild.
You really
if possible,
acknowledge those points.
if possible, I would like to have used it right after finishing using the other spell.
Yeah, sure.
And the question that she has is, did the progress do this?
So there's a fancy question because it is a binary and has no context and has no shades of gray. And so the answer you're going to get is yes.
Mm-hmm. And that is the answer she will take.
Mm-hmm. All right. And I think that's it for this week, folks. We will start out with y'all getting to meet Ramiki for the first time in person, but I think Spider's has already got a bad feeling about this based simply on her entrance. And yeah, so next week we will dive in headlong with you folks waiting for her to come downstairs in the public room of the Saucy Wench, and then the evening's hijinks as they unfold. Any questions before we call it done? All right, that's it. So it is the least favorite part of the day, but the part of the day which is also necessary. So let's start out. Jamie, goodbye.
Well, that's me.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Interesting episode. Nice exposition and setup for our reverse heist. We'll be back next week. I don't know why I said that. I'm Jamie Collette. You can find me on Twitter at Muffin Manifesto or on my website, jamie-collette.com. Also, check out streamedshakespeare.com. I've been part of a number of their readings and shows, and I'm currently directing Richard III for them, including the wonderful Drew Wilson as Clarence in Richmond. So check it out.
That's cool. Alrighty then, since his name was just taken in vain, Drew.
Yeah. Hi. And goodbye. I'm Drew. I'm an actor, a puppeteer, and I do lots of other things. You can find me on Twitter at Drew Wilson. And yes, Jamie is correct. I'm doing some Shakespeare, playing a bunch of characters. And the other day, I filmed a sword fight. So there's that. So, which quickly became just a fist fight. So it's great.
As they do. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, if you want to watch me beat up someone, then definitely check out Richard III.
Very cool. All right. Chantel?
Hey, bye. That was me playing with dice. That probably came through the microphone. Emergency dice. Hey, you can find me on Twitter at ChantelB. You can find me on my website at wordswithcolor.com, where I do a lot of writing. You can find me here, also emotional support dice, emergency dice, emotional support dice. Legitimately, my husband believes they are my emotional support creatures, so I'm not hugging them like this for a reason.
Why would he attack your dog like that? That seems rude.
I don't know. You can also find me on Tuesday at 8 p.m. On NE_actor, twitch.tv/NE_actor for our finale, we think, of The City of Mist.
Ooh. Very cool. All right, then. And, of course, Sam.
Hello, and obviously, sadly, also goodbye. I'm Sam. I'm a voice actor and performer. You can find me on Twitter at @_real70p. You can find me in some of the other shows on Due Respite, on the YouTube, on the Ley Lines of London and the Secrets of South China. I can hear some more of the things I've done on the Penny Peep show, with their Town Called Prodigal show, which was a few shows back. And I recommend listening to the shows that are there now as well, because they're all great.
Okay. I, of course, am Michel Vaillancourt. I'm the Storyteller Games Master for this fantastic group. You can catch up with me on Twitter at MichelV69. Most of that is me yakking either gaming or Canadian politics, so be advised. You can also listen to me talking basically purely about storytelling and games mastering Sunday mornings at 9:02 PE Gaming here on Twitch. Look me up, drop in, say hi. Love to hear from you. Thank you very much for watching, whether you're catching us live or on the video on demand after the fact. We deeply appreciate your time. Thank you, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. This is, of course, a Due Respite production, and we thank Eric for the opportunity to be here and get this done every Saturday morning. It is pretty much the highlight of my week, I know. I think everybody else feels the same. Eric, of course, is the brains behind Due Respite production, and we all completely support him in his investing in stories. We love our stories. We love telling them. So thank you to Eric for making this possible. That's it for this week. It's a little bit of a short session this week, but we will be back. There will be much hijinks next week because I get to play a diva. I'm sure my sweetheart will suggest there's nothing new about that, but it's going to be fun.
I expect lashes.
Don't tempt me to show up with makeup.
There is temptation.
Alternatively,
a long time ago, when I was much more involved in the goth movement in Montreal, my sweetheart used to complain I had a better collection of makeup than she did. So
It is time.
so yeah, I'm just not sure I can do the whole red eyes, red shadow, red lashes thing. I'm not sure that would work with this complexion, but so y'all take care of yourselves, have fun. We will catch you in a week. Thank you for joining us, and that's it. Goodbye.